Very much. All right. I'll be calling the Plan Commission meeting Monday, April 4th, 2022 to order. Roll call, please.
Okay. We'll go with Jay here. Judy.
Here.
Phil. Here. Sonia. We got Seth.
Here.
Cameron.
Here.
Todd.
Todd. That was the other.
Here.
All right.
All right. So Brittany's the one that's absent tonight.
Kevin is attending virtually tonight.
Well, Kevin's not on the committee yet. No.
Okay.
No. All right. Can we stand for a pledge of allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, public comment. This is an opportunity for anyone to address the Plan Commission on any issue. Please observe the time limit of 3 minutes. While the Plan Commission encourages input from residents, it may not discuss or act on any issue that is not duly noticed on the agenda. Do we have anybody?
No public comments.
All right, Michael, why don't you come up to the table?
All right, Michael Pomykowski, 3047 Melody Parkway. Just two real quick things on the SIP for 2100 American Legion. The first is, and this is, okay, inside the document, it always speaks about how they're going to install a monument sign. But if you look at the picture of the sign inside the document, a monument sign has a base pedestal, and this says ground clearance. So using the definitions from our sign ordinance, the sign isn't a monument sign. Could be considered the arm and post one as it's smaller, but it was just as I was reading it, I thought I was going to see a monument sign and the sign looked different. Second thing has to do with the brightness of the sign. I'd mentioned this at the board meeting before. One thing to be considerate of is that illuminated signs are also included in our lighting requirement of 1/2 foot candle at the property line. This sign's going to be placed about 1 foot from the front and 3 from the side or so. So if it gets too bright, it could possibly be overcoming the 1/2 foot candle at the property line. It's just a consideration. Our sign ordinance also talks about variable message signs, adjusting their outdoor illumination to the ambient light, which basically means when it gets dark, you just dim them down, and dimming it down would probably be fine. I mean, that was all I had. Except the village might want to think about if we want to regulate these variable messaging signs now that they are doing multicolored and they're very bright. Culver's just recently put one in, and if you drive down, it can be a pretty bright sign. If there are issues, glare, etc. It's just something I was thinking about when I was looking at this. That's all I had.
All right, thank you. Jed, did you want to say anything? Mike? Okay, very good. All right, I'll close public comment. Unless, is there anybody on, does anybody have their hands up?
Andy Hartman here, if you
I
have.
don't know how to
something.
read that. Okay. All right, we'll go to general business. Number one is approval of the minutes from March 7th, 2022 Plan Commission meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from March 7th, 2022.
Do I have a second?
I second.
I have a motion and a second. Discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. So moved. Discussion and possible action regarding the specific implementation plan for the redevelopment of 2100 American Legion Drive. Is Tom on there? Out there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Oh, there he is.
Can you hear me?
We can't hear you, Tom. I don't know if you're muted.
I don't know. No, he's not at the bottom.
Now can you hear me?
Now he's at the second from the top. And the participants. Yeah. Oh, he's unmuted.
His microphone's going. Is our volume just way down?
Do you know which one is?
What about now?
Hang on, Tom, we still can't hear you.
Tom,
Okay.
I can hear you over here, Tom. So it must be something with the speakers inside of Village Hall.
Okay,
Now we got Andy for some reason.
Well, his microphone was moving too, but we couldn't hear him.
I click back on Tom, I think. Oh, there we go.
I think it's just we can't hear the sound.
can you hear me still?
That makes sense.
That's on the projector, so it should be, it must be in his end. Tom, can you hear us okay?
I can hear you guys.
Huh.
See, we can see his little microphone
that-
symbol going.
I think
when he
Zoom
talks.
is picking up his audio. It's,
So,
it's on our
The
end. I
software is
think.
picking up his audio. It's our end. Yeah.
Want to try again, Tom? No.
Yep, I'm here.
Oh, there we go.
There we go.
All right, go ahead, Tom, if you, what you'd like to say.
I think someone was asking me something, or I'm not sure I had, do you want me to respond to the sign, or is there a specific, anything you would like? me
No,
to-
no, I was just giving you an opportunity if you wanted to do an overview, but if you want to go right to questions, we can certainly do that, whatever you're comfortable with.
Sure, I don't know who hasn't had an overview, but since the last meeting, I think really the only thing that we were going to add on was what we discussed last time regarding the awning and having that encroach into the public way a little bit so it can get to the top of the stairs at our building. So I think that's really the main difference since last meeting. But I'm happy to answer any other questions.
All right, we have the photo, I don't know, can you see what we're looking at right now? There's the photo of your rendering of a sign.
I do not see that, but I'm familiar with the sign.
All right, I guess, is that actually the finished product sign that you're going to use, or is that just an example of what it might be?
That's an example of what it might be. We'll still have to see at the time what technologies are available and how it will actually look. I'm still hoping to be able to find those specific bricks here in the next year. So we'll see how that goes as well. But that is what we're hoping to get it to appeal. So visually to match what it looks like on the outside and in that location is what we that's pretty much on the location. So I think
Okay,
that,
so I think if that's what it's gonna look like, we just have to change the term because that was, the concern was because you can see underneath it, it's not truly a monument
okay,
sign. So not a big deal. I just wanted to make sure we were on that. And then the other was the question on the lighting of it. My understanding, there isn't any additional lighting except for what the sign produces with the digital message, right?
that's what we are looking at. Yep.
Yeah, okay. All right, so everybody had seen the plan. Does anybody else have any other questions for Tom? I just have one from a follow back that we had at the staff meeting. What was the outcome of your fire protection?
We are still, okay, so my architect looked into the concept or the need to have the system or the whole building sprinkled, or at least the assembly space. And he talked to someone with the state, and they pretty much said that we will, due to the size of it and our capacity, that we wouldn't need to have the sprinkler system. And I also talked to the fire chief here in Cross Plains. He said to me that it was not, since we did so much of gutting of the building, that it wasn't actually his decision anymore. It was the county's decision. So he also agreed that he would be surprised if they would require us to do a sprinkler system. We are scheduled for May 10th for our review with Dane County. And And that's when I think we'll get the ultimate answer. But I think we've did our research, and I believe that we are okay without the sprinkler system. But we'll actually only know for sure on the 10th.
All right, thank you very much. Sonia, and then Bill, go ahead. Then we'll have Sonia give a review.
Okay, so I had a question about parking.
Yep.
On the document, the 3-page document that's in our packet, it says parking minimums are waived at Main Street Mixed Use District. The applicant proposes on-site parking for short-term rental guests. Public on-street parking will be available for other uses, not on Main Street though, right? We're not parking. We're not
No, you
putting
can't
park-
park on Main Street.
Right. So that's why this didn't make any sense to me.
It's parking along like where the post office employees park, along the street there.
Okay, but this says parking minimums are waived at Main Street Mixed Use.
Right,
That's a zoning code.
right.
Main Street mixed use is a zoning code. that
Oh, okay.
So it
Got
doesn't
it.
have that.
Okay, I saw Main Street and I just freaked out.
I saw, that's fine.
Okay, cool. And then do we know how bright the LED lights are going to be on the sign?
On the actual big sign. We don't yet. I haven't committed completely to that technology yet. But before I do, I will probably run it past someone at the village to make sure that things are appropriate before we make the commitment, if that is okay.
Yeah, most of them are adjustable.
Quick question on the lighting is,
Sure.
I guess, is that something that we're even concerned of at this point? Like,
No,
I was
well, I
gonna
think
say-
it's something to be, I think it was just being aware
yeah,
of.
we want, I would
That
like
they
them to
have to
be
meet the-
cognizant of it, but
Yeah, the lighting.
you know, if they put in something too bright, we'll get a complaint and deal with it then, right?
Yeah, well,
Okay.
hopefully
But hopefully we don't have,
they
you know,
look at the code for
Yes.
the sign
Yep.
and the lighting and they
okay,
install what meets
Yep.
that. Yeah.
Yep, that sounds great. And yeah, we don't want to annoy people with, we don't want people to be averse to our project with
Right.
too bright of a light. And adjustable seems like it would be very useful. And I'll know more as we dig deeper into what the technologies are available at the time. So I will definitely consider all these needs.
All right, Sonia, you want to give an overview from your perspective?
So the applicant's pursuing plan development zoning, which is a negotiated, create your own type of zoning district where various flexibilities are granted. So their base zoning district is Main Street mixed use, and then they're asking for this plan development zoning as sort of a catch-all to accommodate the various uses that are planned in the building, as well as the flexibilities for things they want to do. An example being the location of the sign, reducing the setbacks of that from what would normally be required. So the plan development zoning happens in 4 steps, and he's at the very last step. The general development plan had already been approved by the village prior to when I started working with Vanderwall and Associates in the village. And this is the very last step, specific implementation plan. So the overall recommendation is for approval, no real concerns, but I'll just point out a few things for the record. The flexibilities that are requested, well, actually an overview of the uses first. The upper floor, the top floor is planned to be used for a short-term rental. So he's planning to have commercial lodging upstairs, and then he's requesting just 1-night stays. I believe that was a point of discussion at the original general development plan discussion at the plan commission meeting. So 1-night stays as opposed to 2 consecutive stays. The main floor, the ground level, is where he plans to have the main event space, hosting small weddings, events, etc. That can spill over into what he's proposing on the exterior of the building on American Legion Drive, which is a patio space. That's where some outdoor music is planned. He's going to have string lights out on that patio. And then going down to the basement level, he's planning a variety of events, enrichment classes, fitness classes, art education, glass blowing, things like that. So the uses there would all be accommodated under plan development. The location of the sign, he's requesting flexibility. The exterior patio, he's requesting flexibility. the awning, he's requesting to have that allowance to go over the property line by a couple of feet. So legally, it's built in the specific implementation plan that the attorney drafted, where if the village ever needed to remove that, it is in the right of way. So for street maintenance purposes or whatever might be the case, the applicant would be required to remove that awning at their expense. So again, other things, no concerns with the land use or zoning, hours of operation. So weekdays, he's proposing from 5:30 a.m. to accommodate those early classes like yoga, all the way through 12:30 p.m. Some late night adult, like glass blowing classes or things like that might run. 12:30 a.m. Thank you very much. Yep. Friday and Saturday nights, then he would go longer. So for weddings, it would be kind of like bar time, like other Main Street uses. So 2:30. Noise is addressed in the memo, but I just wanted to clarify since there was a question from the applicant earlier. Any outdoor events do require, amplified outdoor events require a separate permit through the village clerk. That's a by event permit basis. So he would need to apply for one of those for every outdoor amplified event there is. And then that would follow that ordinance. For example, those noise events have to end at 10 p.m. Parking, there are no minimums for the zoning district. He's proposing maybe shuttles for wedding guests. Otherwise, it's on-street parking in compliance with street parking regulations. No issues with landscaping, and then lighting. If there are any complaints, we can measure at the property line to make sure that it meets the half-foot candle requirement. And if that's an issue, you can adjust lighting. That could be the case with the sign as well. And there are different ways you could do that. You could adjust the brightness, or we could review it again and require like always having that black background that helps to reduce some of the glare and brightness as well. And then architecturally, a nice revitalization of the building, replacing windows and restoring it to the original window opening size, decorative black railing on the patio, new deck on the back of the building, and otherwise no concerns.
All right, are there any other questions at all? All right, do I have a motion, please? All right, well, I will make the motion to accept the specific implementation plan for the redevelopment of 2100 American Legion Drive. Do I have a second? All right, I have a motion and a second. We're at discussion. Any discussion? Todd?
I just want to make sure on the amplified music does have to follow the ordinance of 10 o'clock on the outside. Obviously inside, they can still have the music for wedding events and everything else.
Yeah, that's by permit. That's not, has nothing to do with this. That's a separate permit. We did that when Montagues came.
Correct,
We
yeah,
pulled
but I
all
mean,
that
yeah,
out of these things.
Pulled it everything out, so it's all permitted. I just want to make sure. Yep,
it's the
and
same.
that's the key.
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly why we did it.
Since the sign specifications are known, is that something that needs to come back to us, or can that just be approved by village staff when that's known?
I think if it meets our sign ordinance, there's no reason for it to come back.
There would be a sign permit, but that wouldn't come to the plan commission. It
Right.
would be handled by staff.
All right, any other discussion? Let's do comfortable with the roll call vote?
Sure.
All right, let's do a roll call
Let's do
vote.
a roll call vote. Jay,
I'll say yes.
Judy,
Yes.
Bill,
Yes.
Todd.
Yes.
Seth,
Yes.
Cameron.
Yes.
All right, so move. Thank you, Tom. Look forward to your business opening up. I think it's going to be a great addition to the village.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.
Yeah. All right. Number 3, regarding a zoning code amendment to section 84.65 sub G sub 4 sub A to eliminate the maximum garage width ratio of 50% of the ground floor face of facing the street. Let me just give you a summary of why this is back. We just decided this, was it a month ago or 2 months ago? Our recommendation was to eliminate this. Remember, the village was at 40%. We wanted to eliminate it altogether, keep the 46 feet maximum length 3-car garage. Well, went into the board, that didn't go. They put the 50% in. Well, as soon as we passed that, we found out that the village had approved homes in Scenic Valley that were at 55%. So we were turning down the same builder that just was in the process of building one with 55%, telling him he could not build the next house, and it was the exact same house. So that's why it's back again. I hope we don't have to spend too much time. We had a good discussion last time. We'll do the public hearing again and then discussion and stuff, and hopefully the board will go with our recommendation as we did a month or two ago. So do I have a motion to open up the public hearing?
Second.
All right, all right. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Public hearing is open. Is there anybody that would like to speak to this public hearing? Is there anybody on the internet that would like? I don't see any names. I'm not sure who there is.
That was Tom.
Oh,
That was
okay, okay, very good. All right, not hearing anything. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All right, so we have a motion to close the public hearing. We have a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. Public hearing is closed. So now we're at the discussion and possible action for regarding zoning code amendment to section 84.65 sub G sub 4 sub A. So is there any discussion, or can I just have a motion?
Just, you want a motion just to go back to what we recommended 2 months ago?
Yes, it would be the motion of eliminating, in this case, it's now 50% instead of 40%.
I'll make that motion.
All right, so I have a motion to eliminate the maximum garage width ratio of 50% of the ground floor face of facing the street. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All right, so I have a motion and a second. Discussion. Bill?
So because the builder went above our already 40% and 50% to 55%, we have to accommodate that.
No, that is not what happened. What happened is, like at the Viridian development, we
Yeah.
put it into the covenants. The village gave permission in the covenants to violate the 40%. We did the exact same thing in Scenic Valley. They gave approval through the covenants that the building could go to 55%. So the village is saying one thing to the builders, and our language and our zoning is saying something different. You know, and this is what we discussed, if you remember, you know, we have that maximum size of 46 feet, no more than 3-car garage.
Right.
That would end it all on this, on at least most of it. But if you remember at the board, it was a 4-3 vote to move it to 50% versus eliminating it.
Right.
And I believe Sonia, you supported the elimination of that, and you gave, I don't think there were very many other communities that even had a percentage standard, if I remember your table.
Yeah, the discussion that I was part of recommended keeping some facade proportion max.
Oh, it did.
So at 50%, but you're correct that no other communities in Dane County do
Okay.
regulate that.
So if I believe our last motion was to eliminate that percentage, and it was placed back at the board level. So I just wanted to make sure you had a clear understanding of how that works. And like I say, the new house, they modified it so it would not hit the 55%, but it obviously, I find it somewhat embarrassing that we give them permission and then 30 days later we say you can't do it. I mean, I don't think that's a good way of government working, but so whatever we do, we have to decide, and it just has to be held to that.
Sonia, do you have the pictures that were presented a couple months ago of the houses by
Yes, I
chance?
do.
So if you could bring up the one of that,
Yeah, I think if I.
covers about 70%.
Yeah.
Well, I'm just asking to see a picture. We should be able to do this. To see that. Yeah, oh, okay. But there's a picture of a house on American Legion Drive, and it also faces Lewis Street. Well, they took a picture of the garage. It takes up 70% of the faces.
Right,
Well, it's on a corner. The front of the house is actually on Lewis Street.
right.
So
That
is that,
doesn't-
yeah, but it's not fair to them to say you can't face the street. So there's three cars, but it doesn't take up the
No,
whole
I
front of the building.
don't, that one I don't even think would be a problem because it's not the front, it's not the address, it's not the face of the address. That's a side garage. And we would never expect a side garage to meet any of those standards. Generally, they meet probably 80–90%. Huh?
Except the 10 feet.
Yeah, the 10 feet, obviously. I think,
There,
yeah, see, that to me, it's not even relevant to this ordinance. That's not the front. The front's over here.
Right.
That's the side. So
I mean, as
I
long
don't
as-
think this applies to that.
yeah, but as long as we regulate the size of the garage itself, what's the difference? That's the point.
I think that's was what this group felt when we did it before. Because I know our recommendation did not include a percentage. So what's the flavor of the, right now we have a motion to eliminate the 50%.
Take
Hey,
a vote.
Whatever we do, like I say, I need to bring this back because it's a conflict and we cannot be doing this. This is gonna get us into a lawsuit pretty easy. We should not be changing zoning code in covenants. That is just not the way to do business. So that's a whole different issue, but the problem is it's up here. I feel I'm obligated to bring it up to this. Whatever happens, happens. We move it to the board. So like I say, I'm open for whatever people want to do. We just got to know. Well, Michael, we really can't. You're on the board. And if you get into this, then I'm have a quorum, all right? So I really can't have you do that.
I'll make a motion that we recommend.
I think the motion.
The motion's already there. We
Motion
just need to
is-
take a vote.
The motions here is to remove the,
Percentage.
yeah.
Okay, yep, yeah.
So that's the only thing we're doing. We're keeping in the 46 maximum length and the 3-car garage. We can't have more than 3-car garage.
42.
Huh?
42.
42, whatever the, I'm
Just
sorry,
making sure.
whatever the number was. We have a set size and we have a set number. So we would just be removing the percentage part. So,
Question for somebody, I guess. Are you aware of any communities where it makes a difference if it's a 1-story or a 2-story house on anything like this? Like, I know that I understand the reason is we don't want the whole facade being a garage. Well, having a 2-story house or part of the house is above the garage presents more of a facade that, now the garage isn't as big of a thing. And I'm just wondering if any communities have a difference when it's 2 stories versus 1 story, if it's just a kind of one size fits all.
That's a good point, but I'm not aware of that being built in.
Not that I want to try to figure one out now,
no,
but
and
it's,
I think and I'll be honest, this is just me. Zoning should be very easy for someone to pick up our zoning ordinance, look at it and know what to do. And the more variables you throw into it, the more difficult it is to do.
right. But
And to me, 42 feet, 3-car garage, that, to me, that's enough.
I just want to make sure if we go that way,
Yeah,
someone could build a 42-foot house, 42-foot wide garage or whatever, with 10-foot part of the house coming up to the front or within 10 feet of it, just to meet the requirements. And then the rest of the house is behind it, and all you see is 10 feet of house and 42 feet of
I
garage.
guess that
And I
is-
thought that's what we were trying to avoid in some
we are.
instance before, and this
We
would
are.
be basically punting on
Well, I think that's part of it, but what brought this all up is we're trying to make housing more affordable, so we went with small. So we have to, I don't think someone should be penalized if they have a smaller house, if they can't have a regular size 2-car garage, or, you know what I'm saying? So that's kind of how this came in, and we're gonna just be continuing to play with that game. To me, if their house is gonna be 52 feet wide only, then yeah, they should still be able to have a standard 2-car garage.
I'm
You
playing,
know, and so that's one of the things we sacrifice is maybe the look.
kind of playing devil's advocate.
Yeah,
here.
no, absolutely.
Just-
I understand that side of it. The question is, there is no perfect number, right? There's always gonna be pros and cons to every decision we make. So the question is, what are we willing to live with? And I'm somewhat frustrated because this is one of those areas we've pretty much ignored in this village. Because I know my neighbor is way above the 40%.
I guess I'm not aware of the discussion of what happened at the village board and why that decision was made, so I don't need that to be
It was
rehashed.
basically where you came from.
Okay.
Where you came from. That's exactly was the argument.
Like I said, we're making a recommendation, so
Yeah,
ultimately we're not the final call.
right. All right, any other discussion? All right. Let's just take, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. So moved. All right, regarding a zoning code amendment to section 84.109 swimming pool standard sub H enclosure to amend the minimum height requirement from 6 feet to 4 feet. This was brought up, so do I have a motion to go into public hearing, please?
I'll make a motion to come into public hearing.
All right, do I have a second?
I second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We're in public hearing. Is there anybody in the room that would like to speak on this moving? What we're doing is moving our zoning from 6 feet requirement for around a pool to 4 feet. That's all we're changing in that. Is there anybody on the computer, on the internet that would like to speak on that? I don't see any hands up. All right. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All right, I have a motion and a second to close the public hearing. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same. So moved. Public hearing has been closed. Okay, we're at B, discussion and possible action regarding the changing of section 84.109 sub H, moving the minimum height requirement from 6 to 4 feet. Cameron kind of did the presentation last month on that. All right, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve, to change the section 84.109 subsection H swimming pool standard enclosure from 6 feet to 4 feet.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, discussion, comments, or anybody wants to ask a question or make any comments on this?
There's a hand up. I think Melissa just came in. Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. All right, see no discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same, so moved. All right, number 5, regarding the zoning amendment to add parks and conservations. And that's a separate zoning code. We'll go with A. Do I have a motion to up a public hearing to amend the zoning code to add parks and conservation?
So moved.
All right. All right, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. All right, we're open for public hearing. I'm guessing Melissa, okay. Yep, Michael, go ahead.
Michael Pomikowski, 3047 Melody Parkway. Just real quick, a few of my concerns are with some changes you're making to the conservation zoning district. This being trying to preserve the natural state of scenic areas. You guys are considering the conditional use of a community garden in this area. That might be an over land use if you're trying to preserve a natural state. Could be other areas, well, because it's under consideration for the parks zoning district as well. And along those same lines, the non-residential accessory structure, which would be building essentially a building in an area where you're trying to prevent development. It's just the core of the conservation district, and these two just seem like you're trying to develop them. I kind of thought maybe the same went for campground, but I like the idea about the hiking through, and so that's a intense land use as well if you're trying to preserve the scenic areas, but not quite as bad as the other two. And then I sort of did have one other question, because inside of the new Parks and Rec district, as a conditional use, you're permitting community garden. There currently is a community garden in one of the parks, so would that mean that it would have to be get a conditional use permit since it already exists there?
No, it would be an existing legal non-conforming.
Oh, it would. Okay, great. Thank you very much.
All right. Is there anybody else that would like to speak? How about on the, out there in the internet world? All right. I'm not sure how you can tell, but, all right, so, you've heard that. Do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So we'll come out of close, or come out of the public hearing.
All right, do I have a second?
Yes.
All right, so I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. Public hearing is closed. All right, go to B, discussion and possible action to amend section 84.25 sub C of the Village of Cross Plains Code of Ordinance regarding conservation zoning district. Do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion that we approve that, the new section, to amend section 84.25 of the Village of Cross Plains Code of Ordinance regarding conservation zoning district.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. We're open for discussion. So I will comment since Michael brought it up. I don't think it's unreasonable for a conservation land to have, let's say, a shed to store tools and stuff like that. I think you see that on a lot of properties, including the Arboretum and stuff. I think you need to have the ability to put some structures there for your equipment, even if it's for at some point do a tractor to cut the trails and maintain the trails. I think you need to have something there so you're not hauling things by trailer. So I hear where you're coming from, seeing it as development, but I do see a need in all areas that you might need to put building. I'm with you with the community gardens. I think that can stay in parks. I think that's more appropriate, but and again, these are things that are under conditional, they're not foregone. So I guess there could be some circumstances that there's an area that we've dedicated as conservation, but we'd be okay with community gardens. So I just think flexibility is always good.
Would there be any reason to move the non-residential accessory structure into like the community or the conditional use permit, just so we had a little more control over what was built? Or is that the wrong place to put it?
That's a darn good question. Sonia, what's your answer? This is very complicated. I don't know. I try to keep things as broad when it comes to this, so there's that flexibility. I don't know. I can't answer your question.
I was just looking to see if there's a size limitation that might help.
Oh.
If it's small enough, or if the setbacks are appropriate, maybe you don't care if you would permit it by right. Not sure if it rises to the level of conditional use.
Okay.
If it's going to be small.
I don't have a strong opinion on it, just
Okay.
if the public is concerned, maybe we put a size restriction on it or approve
Well-
what's built.
Yeah, I don't.
No, the one question too that would have to be brought up is who's going to put it up? Can I just as a landowner go into a conservancy and then put it up, or is it or does it need to be worded as a village installed structure?
I think that goes under common law that you can't build a structure on someone else's property. I don't think you need to put that in the zoning. I think that's a given. That's a common law thing. No one can come into my yard and put up a shed.
But don't we have some, I thought we had talked about some concern was some privately owned
Conservancies.
conservancy land, that's where that would come into play.
Oh,
There are
do we have?
there are a few that fall within that zone. Most of them are within an SR4 or SR5, however, already.
Oh,
So it's like their whole lot. The only ones that come to mind for me currently are be the ones up with Park Street. What's the other street that goes? up?
Center.
Center. There's some up there, up in that region. And then some
oh, in
off
the
of
back
Lewis-
there?
Yeah, and some off of Lewis
Oh.
Street as well. That go pretty far out.
How did they get that?
But they still, with the slope being over 20%, they are technically unable to, so it falls underneath the 20% slope.
Oh, all right, and this was gonna be my question, it might help answer. We're passing this zoning, right, this category, but we aren't necessarily, the second step would be identifying the parcels that would actually fall under this, right?
That's true for the Park and Recreation District, absolutely. Your conservation zoning district already exists, right? So
Oh,
you
that's
do
right.
have conservancy districts already.
Oh, that's right, it's the park that we're adding, okay.
It's breaking the two up.
Yeah, okay, okay. Well, what are people saw? I just, I just want to make sure that the village has the ability to do what it needs to take care of these. So that's, as long as that's somehow covered, and again, I guess I'm not too worried about these private conservancy. It's not the way I think we should zone things in the future, but it is what it is.
And if this group has no concern over I'm not obviously concerned about the village putting up buildings that shouldn't be on conservancy land, but if this group has no issue with the privately owned conservancy land doing something, then I'm okay with this.
Bill?
Actually, this, I don't have any comment about this. I have another comment later. So let's finish this conversation.
Oh, okay, yep,
Yep.
okay.
Sorry.
And here's my counter to that. Again, I don't know how much government should play on other people's property. So you're right. This is kind of weird that we put that land in that kind of zoning, because then it, makes it like, hey, there's a lot of restrictions to this. So what are your thoughts on, really, we're talking about the private.
99% of it, it actually might even be all of them now. I'm just thinking about this, the private conservancy you're talking about. I believe those they were at one point conservancy, but I believe they are SR4 or SR5 or SR3 already.
Oh,
I think that's been changed. So the area of the lot, for instance, that's up on Center Street, the area of that lot, I believe is still zoned with the same as their house, even though it's.
oh, well, that solves the problem.
That's a steep slope.
That's what I was wondering, which privately owned lots are zoned conservancy? That's my question. Faust, any of the back property in the village?
No, not yet.
But like this is owned by, everything in green is owned by the village, but is it owned by the village or no?
No. I think like.
What about in
this here? Right, I think that's private.
going up to green?
Yeah, I thought the
That's not
school.
different.
No, that's agreed. I think this is.
Oh, that one.
Yeah, there's a lot there that's actually owned by the people next to it. It's private, but they've got a prairie growing on it. I don't believe it's actually.
You're talking Marcus's.
But is it zoned?
Well, you're
I mean,
saying-
they can grow prairie on anything. You don't need to have conservancy.
No, but we're talking like this issue with like the accessory structure.
Yeah,
I'm just trying to think of, other than the village, who would be having a privately owned conservancy lot that they could even put one on?
Right. All right. Are people pretty comfortable for what we have on that document?
I am.
So I've got a question if we're done talking.
Okay, are you still on B though? You're still talking about conservancy, or if you move to one of the other, you have something first, one of the others?
I'm on E.
You're on B?
Okay, echo.
I don't see an E, but.
I don't either.
But that's all right.
No.
On here.
Oh,
You're seeing on, okay.
Okay.
I was with you, Jay.
Agenda.
I was looking at here too.
Okay, are you-
Look at the agenda, I'm looking at-
Okay, but are you under the conservancy one still? Or are you under the parks?
No, I'm under conservancy.
Okay, then go ahead and ask the question, yes.
All right, so under subsection E, like in Echo, we still have personal antenna and towers. Where did we land with that?
So this is summarized in the memo. I'm just gonna go back and check. So at the last plan commission meeting, those personal antenna and towers were under permitted use, but
Okay,
due to the questions raised, we moved it to conditional.
okay. Perfect.
All right. Other questions? All righty, I think we're good on this one. Let's take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. So moved. All right. So now we're gonna go to C. Discuss and possible action to create section 84.42 of the Village of Cross Plains Code of Ordinances. Shouldn't have that said Parks and Rec, or is,
Yeah. I think it's supposed to have regarding parks and recreation zones.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't say on their parks.
is it actually Parks and Recreation, or is it just Parks? Isn't Parks is
Parks
just,
and Conservancy.
no, Conservancy we pulled away.
8442 as in the document says Parks and Recreation District.
Oh,
Oh,
okay,
yeah, I think that's.
okay,
As long as we have the number there, we're probably okay.
yeah.
We can recommend changing.
Say it again?
Yeah,
We could recommend changing the name of.
Yeah, yeah,
Section.
yeah. I always thought Parks was the actual land, recreation was the activities, but. Anyways, let's, do I have a motion, to create section 84.42 in the Village of Cross Plains Code of Ordinance regarding parks and recreation?
I'll make that motion.
Okay,
I'll
all
second it.
right, I have a motion and a second. We're at discussion. All right, so this is the one that we're actually creating. And if I remember right, the reason we're doing this, so everybody remembers, is a lot of our parks have different type of zoning because whatever the land was brought in, they kind of stayed that. What we want to have is our own zoning just for the park, so we don't have to do all the other stuff that you have to do when you're not following the zoning that it is. So I just want to make sure everybody has that understanding. And you will bring back later a map of what you're considering to be under parks and what's under conservancy, right?
correct, and I have done that with that already, so we should have a copy of that.
Yep, it just has to have the formal public hearing and.
Okay, perfect. So that's where we are right now. Right now, we're just asking, do we want to create this new section? And then what she has, what Sonia has provided on how it would look or read. So on that discussion, are there questions, concerns, or comments right now? Okay, Seth?
On the, since I was one of the people, or probably the person that brought up the disc golf issue, it's noted. I'm just wondering if it would be helpful to clear any future confusion if we could add disc golf in the definition of passive outdoor recreation. Where it just says activities such as, then it might be help in future items, because if we're gonna say that we're assuming that's passive outdoor recreation, and then we're gonna permit it in these districts, and I would like to see it specifically listed as an example of a passive.
Yeah, thanks. I understand and I thought that as well when I was going through the memo. Should we just clarify that, for example, passive outdoor recreation discusses cross-country trails.
Right.
So I'm making the sort of interpretation, if you're administering the code, that disc golf is similar. So you're relying on interpretation. If you actually wanted to go and amend that land use definition, you'd have to amend another section of the code, which wasn't included in the public hearing.
Okay.
So you'd have to go and do it again, which you could do, just not.
Fair enough. Thank you.
So is the answer we can put it in as an
You can,
example?
but you'd have to go and publish a class 2 notice and
Oh.
hold another public hearing.
So
Oh,
if you'd
really?
like to do that, you can, because we
Oh.
didn't reference that section of the code in the.
Oh, I see, we did,
Notice.
okay. And that's what you were I thought you were reading from this one.
No, I was just saying,
Oh, yeah.
there's discussion in the memo of that and the interpret,
Yes,
they kind of
okay.
interpreted it as being a passive recreation use. I thought, well, can we list that as an example so that it's clear?
Okay, now I understand where we're
The
at.
definition lives.
Yeah,
elsewhere.
outside of it,
Yeah.
okay, very good. All right, anybody else? All right, let's take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. So moved. All right, D, discussion and possible action to repeal and recreate section 84.54 of the Village of Cross Plains zoning code of ordinance concerning the table of land uses. And again, this is what we been working on for a good 6-7 months, I believe, probably even before Bill and Ron. We took it section by section. You remember that? This is the final product. So do I have a motion?
I'll make the motion to accept the changes to the plan table or zoning table, excuse me.
I'll second.
All right. Any discussion? This was a long road, but I think it's we finally got our stuff up to date, so. Sonia, do you have any comments or?
No, thanks for the.
Oh, yeah, that was even
feedback.
before you came. Yeah, we were working with Mike on that one. Yeah, there's a lot of new faces. All right. Hearing no other discussion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same, so moved. Very good. Wow, I'm glad that one's off the list. All right, number 6, discussion regarding the review of ordinance 21.11 and the harboring or keeping ducks and or goats. So this is something that was brought up. We did the first part last meeting with the chickens. If you look on the memo that, it was a memo that I sent Brian, but he also captured it in the summary. I want to make sure, the first thing I wanted to do is make sure I captured everything on the chicken discussion to make sure that that's what I wrote down as what we agreed upon. So I want to make sure that that is correct, is the first step. If not, let's make the changes. I thought I captured everything.
Looks to me like you captured everything we talked about.
Yeah, that we were going to change. Yeah, we
Right.
talked about a ton. All right. So then the next part of this, if you remember, the request was not only for chickens, but now ducks. So I want to separate ducks. Or
We got a question from Andy too.
yeah, he's going to. Okay, go ahead. Have him go ahead.
No, sorry to interrupt. Keep going, Jay. I was just curious about any opportunity to speak just because of the public comment technology snafu, but you keep going what you're doing, and whenever you're ready, I'm here.
No, I was going to let you. I'll let you discuss the goat one. I think the duck one I can handle, and you can certainly comment on that. But I'll let you do the summary of the goats. How's that?
That sounds great with me. Thank you.
Yep. So the request is to also harbor and keep ducks, and our current ordinance is chickens and fowls. So I think we can easily add this to that ordinance. And I guess I really don't know why, if there's any big difference between chickens and ducks, that we just put /chicken/ducks throughout the ordinance. And everything else applies unless people see there's a need for a different section for ducks. Otherwise,
But our ducks are foul.
yeah, that's
Why-
what, but see, the problem is we clearly state chickens. The ordinance states chickens and fowl. So now we're just doing,
Okay.
I think we're okay to put that in without any major changes. But the request is for ducks, so now we would have chicken/ducks. And that would be our fowl. And I don't know, I couldn't find any other place that allowed ducks, but maybe there are, I don't know.
We did in Fitchburg.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, so it was a broader definition called limited animal husbandry. And that included poultry, and the definition of poultry does include ducks and chickens.
Oh,
What about turkey?
I believe, I can check.
That's, I mean,
Turkeys,
so,
yes.
I mean, would it be easier to leave chicken and just leave fowl?
Or change it to poultry.
we gotta do, I think we wanna narrow it a little bit more than fowl, because I think that's just about all birds. So I think we have to,
Because I mean, I don't want someone necessarily having a,
Trumpeter swan
well, that's,
in their yard. I don't have a problem if they wish to have one, but not next to me. So I mean, I think,
right,
I
that's why I think we need, I would like it to be as narrow as possible.
okay,
So, the ducks thing, I can't come up with a reason not to do ducks.
no, I don't either. I don't have a problem with ducks.
But, once you start getting into geese and some of the bigger birds like
Pheasants.
turkeys and stuff. Well, pheasants that'll be governed by the DNR, and there's no way they're gonna do that. But I'm more worried about the bigger birds because they're noisier and bigger. So, I mean,
Pheasants, or not pheasants,
turkeys and geese are pretty big. Can be.
Yeah.
Peacocks.
Oh, peacocks, yeah, they're noisy. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. So my preference would be to try to keep this narrow focus.
That's fine.
We
Just
can say
asking.
chickens and ducks. I don't have any expertise in ducks. Is there like a water requirement for
No.
ducks? Okay, as long as we don't.
Well, I
have
mean,
to
they
add a
have to
bunch-
have water to drink, but they don't have to
Obviously,
have water.
okay, as long as we don't have to
I
add a
only
bunch
know-
of stuff,
you know,
you
my-
need so much water.
Yeah,
available
my
for swimming.
cousin's farm, they had some ducks, and I have, there's a sergeant that when he retired, he had ducks, and they just.
Okay,
There was a kiddie pool, I thought, at Ace Hardware.
Yeah. Yeah, go ahead,
Along
Seth.
those same lines, those things, are there any differences in enclosure requirements or anything along those lines between?
Well,
ducks
we
and chickens, so would they just be, everything that we said for chickens be lumped in with ducks? We're not
Yeah.
creating a separate category for ducks?
No, I want, because we broadened the chicken, they don't have to stay in the coop, they can go out into the yard as long as it's fenced.
Yeah.
So we've opened that up already, and I think that's what you would be the concern
Okay,
with ducks. I don't know if I've never seen ducks kept in a small pen. They usually have room to walk around. I don't know if that's
Then
absolutely
if-
necessary. I
my,
just have seen that.
okay, so my second question then is if we'd be kind of lumping in ducks with chickens, then when we talk about numbers, is it combination or is it 6 of each or? how do we
That's a
handle
good,
that?
now that I didn't think of. Wow, I would think it would be a total,
I think if you go chicken/ducks,
with a maximum of 6.
6, right? So whatever combination of those 6.
Yeah.
combined.
Yeah, I think I'd go with that. 12 is a lot. And I don't know, do people eat the eggs of
yeah,
ducks?
duck eggs are awesome.
Okay. Okay.
glad we have one duck expert to help us out.
Yeah. So that was a good one. So is everybody comfortable with making that the maximum of 6, whatever it is? Chickens or
Duck
eggs?
yeah.
Okay.
Does Andy have a comment?
Yeah, Andy, you have,
He's on mute.
do you want to comment on that at all? Just the duck thing, the discussion?
Yeah, no, I first would like to say, thanks for the discussion that everybody had at the last meeting related to chickens. I really appreciated learning a lot from the perspectives of the members of the Plan Commission. So thanks for that. As far as ducks are concerned, I would err against having it limited at 6 total, chickens or ducks. I think the numbers for chickens is involving like having a healthy flock of chickens. And there's a certain number, I believe it's like 4 to 6 that makes a good, healthy flock. And so I think if you're encouraging people who want to have both, you might limit the health of the birds in that process. So maybe capping ducks at 3 to 4 and chickens at 6 might potentially be a good common ground there.
And I guess I don't even know if chickens and ducks get along with each other in a confined You know, I know chickens like to peck. Well, I'm just saying,
Andy,
So-
do you know that answer?
In my experience, when I was younger in Iowa, I did see ducks and chickens coexisting just fine. But I can't say I have anything for that right now. Recent.
all right. So where are we at, do you think?
I still think just up to 6.
Okay,
I think we took a cautionary, bump up to only 2. I think we're pushing more limits if we're trying to say, 3 to 4 of that one and 6 of that one. So just stick with here. And like I said last time, if we get more feedback from the public that they want more, we can add more later.
okay. People comfortable with that? So we'll keep it at that and we'll change the language in there, but make sure we have the language for the max. Very good. And this is all gonna, remember, is all gonna come back. This is just discussion because we'll have to do a public hearing and change the ordinance. All right, Andy, why don't you take over the goats discussion?
Yeah, hi. Thanks again, everybody. So I think goats of all of the animals that we're talking about probably provide the most benefit to residents as far as animal products. And it can incorporate into sort of the community aesthetic that we're trying to establish of being sort of conservancy minded, outdoorsy, healthy, environmentally friendly place for people to live. So goat husbandry, I think, is beneficial in a number of ways for the village. It can provide people with obviously milk, meat, and fur to sort of, sustain and have the, sorry, I just ran from downstairs. It's like bath time right now. Sorry. Okay, here we go. To provide people with sort of that farm to table, more healthy access to protein and products that are more environmentally friendly. I'm not expecting like a cottage industry of like goat yarn to pop up in Cross Plains. I just think that it is probably one of the more valuable animals to raise for a family. And so I think we should consider offering it into the village. Additionally, I would just say they can also be used as lawn maintenance crews. So you could potentially have a miniature petting zoo in your backyard that can also maintain your property, which I think is an added benefit. Additionally, if you have goats to help maintain the length of your grass, you're probably not going to be using pesticides because you don't want to incorporate that into the goats themselves and harm the goats. And so we're going to have less use and runoff into our streams here in the village. It also would limit the need for lawnmowers. Therefore, you're going to have less noise pollution, less, gasoline spills and so on and so forth with lawn maintenance that eventually occur with lawnmowers. The first time I ever saw this was at the beaches of Normandy when I visited France to sort of pay homage and tribute to the fallen soldiers at the D-Day landing invasions. And so in order to limit noise pollution for people who are trying to be reflective at this very impactful space, they use goats to basically maintain the properties. It's also really, really hard to mow a bomb crater, right? And so the way that they were utilizing these goats, where they'd have a fence, maybe 20 feet, in diameter, and they would just move that fence to the next section so the goats could munch on that grass and maintain the property. So for people in the village who have very difficult properties to manage, they're butted up against some of the conservancies in a lot of cases, or they have rocky outcroppings where you have maybe invasive species that you would like to get rid of. Goats are a good solution for residents to utilize them for that purpose as well. So that's sort of my 2 cents on the goat topic. As far as numbers of goats are concerned, I think the research that I did suggested that something like 5 goats could maintain like a half an acre to an acre space per week. But refresh my memory if that's incorrect from the stuff that I provided to you earlier. That's all I got. Thanks, guys.
All right, just to fill in, we have no ordinance on the books that is even close to relating to large herd animals. So we don't have anything for livestock. we have something that's related to riding a horse into town and where you can hook it up and stuff. Sonia, do you know of any? So we'd be going from scratch on this one. So it's something that we're gonna have to spend some time looking at. Sonia, do you know of any village that allows goats that we could at least steal their ordinance and look at it? Because I would think there would be all kinds of requirements that you would need.
Yeah, so I'm just, okay, so we did not allow it in Fitchburg. Animal husbandry only accommodated rabbits, poultry, beekeeping, and fish farming.
Okay.
In the residential district.
Well, this is something I guess we could try to do some research. I guess I'd want, before we spend too much time on this, I'd like to know just people's first reaction to this, understanding, just, do you think we should even be looking into allowing goats, or is that just kind of outside the?
So something to throw a curveball at is that some people have like miniature goats as pets. So they put a leash on them, they walk them like a dog, they keep them in their house. I mean, I don't think we have anything in our ordinance for that.
Exotic, that would be considered an exotic pet, I believe.
Would it?
Well, I
don't know.
You'd have to look at it. They live. We have something that has unusual pets. I think it's called exotic pets or something.
We do have an exotic pet section.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I don't know if that is in there, but it has a lot of things in there.
Okay,
So that's kind of governed that, but that's totally different because it talks about staying in the house. and,
right.
Your snake can't be too big.
Right, yeah.
More than 10 feet.
Yeah. So, but I think we're past that. What he's looking at is more
Livestock.
So I think we have to look at it, because I don't think anybody in this is looking to have their goats inside their house or walking them on the street. This is, like he said, for the whole thing of from, a food source and an actual activity of keeping your grass down. But the only thing that I would throw out there, why I think it's true that they would keep your grass short, I think most lots, even 1 or 2 goats would overeat that, because I've seen what they do in a pasture, and that pasture only lasts until about midsummer, and then it's just down to nothing. And then you got to feed them obviously in the winter. So there's the whole thing of bringing in hay. So, like I say, I think it has some value, and I know he's talking about, and I've seen it a lot in conservation areas, and farmers use it where they put the goats in to eat like shrubs and to clear like your honeysuckle and your invasive plants. They use goats. So they have that, there is a purpose, and they are used in that kind of land management. The question is, do we want that inside the village as for someone to use for their lawn? And if we do that, we're gonna have to have a lot of regulation, because I think we're gonna have to make sure they have shelter and water and all that. Todd?
So, I mean, that one, I never thought about bringing goats into the village. But from the standpoint, I know the DNR uses them. I know some people that rent the goats out to the DNR to use them around the parks. I don't know, is there an ordinance on the books or something that prevents someone from hiring goats now to take care of their hillside? If someone has a conservancy land, is there something on the books that you can just say, here's a bunch of goats, they let them fence them in, let them go nuts, and then take them back to where they came from?
I'd say yes. They're currently not allowed. I've had it on my whiteboard in my office for 3 years, I think. It says goats for conservancies, but it wasn't currently allowed via village ordinance. So if you do change it, then we'll be looking to have goats in our conservancies.
Well, the only thing I'm asking is,
No,
yeah, but
no, I think what he's saying is if people want to do that, hire a service to use goats.
right, so if
Aren't maintaining them for.
they're not maintaining them, so I mean,
Right,
do we look
that
at
we
making?
could. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, but do we make an ordinance saying that for rent, you can rent goats for up to 30 days on a piece of property, X amount of size, and see if anyone does it?
I'd be curious to where that is banned, because I searched our ordinances, I searched state statute, I could not find things related to goats.
Thought it was
Or livestock.
Under livestock or something.
We don't have an ordinance on livestock. I thought we would. I couldn't find it unless it's under something that's,
Unless I got changed in the recon.
unless it's in the zone. I did not go into the zoning code. I went into our regular, and maybe it's in zoning somewhere. I don't know.
I'll look and get back.
Yeah, if you
But I
can.
asked, I've had it up there.
So do we want to just table it for tonight and try to get a little bit more information? I don't want to put a whole lot of work if everybody's saying, no, this is just not something I could go with.
I mean, I don't have, like I said, I don't have a problem making a temporary permit for someone to see. Like I said, I'm curious if anyone's even going to do it. I mean, obviously Mike's, would like to do it in the Conservancy. I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with my neighbor who has the hill if they want to hire goats, but I don't want them necessarily to have them. I don't know if my neighbors would even hire goats.
I don't think there's gonna be a whole lot of people that are gonna go and ask for goats.
Yeah.
I don't think people wanna get up and milk goats, and you're gonna have to take them to a slaughterhouse to get them slaughtered and butchered. Because we would not allow that in the village. So, I mean, there's a lot of things, so I just don't know if it's prohibited, but it was a request, so I think we need to at least discuss it, but if there's just isn't a lot of support, then I don't think we need to spend the time researching. I really am curious on where Mike's coming, where we can't use goats in the Conservancy area, because I just didn't see anywhere where it addressed one way or the other. So what are people's feeling? I don't mind trying to do a little bit of research on finding some ordinance, and maybe Andy can lead me to some. I don't know any, I've never seen goats in a metropolitan area. Has anybody?
I can't imagine if I just built my $600,000 house and also my neighbor comes with them. I think.
It's just too far.
But I mean,
I don't even want my Bailey's from Church Street.
we do have houses, more on the outskirts where,
Right.
It-
But I'm in.
yeah, I know.
The village.
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
I'm not for them in town necessarily, but like I said, I think if we can make it where they could rent it for a period of time to see what happens. I don't know. Like I said, maybe not only rent them, maybe someone would rent them, maybe my neighbor would rent them every other month. I don't know. But it's just something I just think would be more appropriate that way instead of being kept on the property a full time.
All right, Cameron, what are your thoughts?
There's public demand for goats that I'm hearing. But impossible to make an informed decision until I can look at an ordinance. I'm not opposed right now. I'd like to see an ordinance and land requirements and learn a little bit more before making a decision.
All right. Seth?
Similar thoughts. I was looking online because I thought I remember hearing Madison Parks used goats.
Okay, but we got to take, that's a whole different, the whole thing of using goats for land management is totally different than what we're talking here. We're talking about the actual ownership and the raising of goats. So I don't want the two, because I can get tons of articles on the use of goats in land. And I have friends who have actually hired them to clear their property. So that's a whole different, that's not what we're talking about here. That's something Mike can look in. And if he wants us to bring something up to allow that in the village, that to me is a totally different issue than what we're talking about tonight.
I would want to know about enclosure requirements. I mean, that would be a big thing. If we're going to consider, I'm not totally opposed to the idea either. I'd like to see some other places that have done it or examples of ordinances, lessons learned kind of thing, but enclosures would be a big thing for me.
Yeah. Todd?
I'm against ownership of them in the village.
All right, so to just give this a fair shot, I will look and see what I can find do a little bit of research on this and see.
But we have two people who said they'd be against. I mean.
We have, I think, 3.
Three, what is it worth doing? Because we don't have.
Well, yeah, because there's 4 that could vote for it, so 4. So no, if everybody here said, no, there's just no way, then I wouldn't do it because I'm not gonna, I mean, time isn't money for me, but it's still time that I could be doing something else, but I'll give it a shot. Because I know we just have to see how this all plays out. I'd love to see if there's a place anywhere that does this, I would like to see how they manage it. Just more curiosity than anything. So we'll just, obviously not do anything tonight, and let me just take a look at it. And if I find something by the next meeting, we can talk about it. Mike, if you could do a little research on why you think you can't use goats in the conservancy, I'd be interested in looking at that too. You might as well get both of them at the same time. Seem good? All right, so we will, just to keep this moving forward, we will write something up for the duck thing. Adding the ducks to the ordinance, so we kind of keep that up to date on where we're at, and then we'll just do the research on the goats, and we won't do anything with that right now. All right, do I have a motion for adjournment?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same. We are adjourned. Thank you very much. Stay dry.